To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice was forwarded to the official township newspaper posted on the bulletin board and township website. This meeting is being videotaped and will be on Channel 9.
Roll call.
Mr. Doyle?
Here.
Mr. Fiorella?
Here.
Mr. Keene?
Here.
Mr. Marsh?
Here.
Mayor Burton.
Here. We're going to start off with a couple of proclamations. The first one's going to be honoring Anthony Fabrizio as he celebrated his 100th birthday on Saturday, April 20th, 2024. Let's read from here, boys.
Who wants you up there, Tony?
Go ahead. I want you up here.
I'm all right.
You all right?
Yeah.
No, you're fine. You can stay. Proclamations honoring Anthony Tony Fabrizio as he celebrates his 100th birthday on Saturday, April 20th, 2024. Whereas Anthony Michael Tony Fabrizio has been recognized by the Township of Franklin, Gloucester County, as he joins the prestigious Centurion Club on the 20th day of April in the year of 2024. And whereas Anthony Michael Fabrizio was born on April 20th, 100 years ago in Camden, New Jersey. Shortly after graduating from high school, Tony enlisted in the United States Navy to join the Pacific fighting in World War II. Tony was a landing craft vehicle Higgins boat operator. After the war, Tony joined the Merchant Marine for a time, and then he eventually became a tugboat operator and ship's mechanic. He eventually met his wife, Faye, and whereas the couple has been married for 54 years, in June of 2024, and have resided in Franklin Township for 54 years also. And now, therefore, be resolved that the Township Committee, the Township of Franklin, County of Gloucester, State of New Jersey, hereby thanks, honors, and congratulates Anthony Michael Tony Fabrizio on this milestone. Presented by the Township of Franklin, County of Gloucester, and State of New Jersey on April 23rd, 2024. Mayor Bruno, Committeeman Doyle, Committeeman Fiorella, Committeeman Keene, and Committeeman Mike Marsh.
Thank you.
Congratulations again. That's yours.
Oh, okay.
We have another one. This proclamation is honoring fallen firefighters and the firefighters of our community for their dedication. Whereas the United States Congress and the President of the United States have designated the day of the annual National Fallen Firefighter Memorial Service as a day to honor firefighters and emergency services personnel who have sacrificed their lives to save others by lowering the American flag on all federal buildings to half-staff. And whereas the average 80 firefighters courageously make the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty each year, whereas firefighters and emergency personnel services personnel play an essential role in the protection of lives and the property in our local community. Whereas the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Service marks weekend following International Firefighters Day 2024. And whereas it is of major importance that we increase our efforts to reduce deaths, injuries, and property losses from fire. Therefore, I, John Bruno, Mayor of the Township of Franklin, now convey to all citizens of the Township, the patriotic, civic, and educational organizations, the observance of the day of May 5th, 2024, in recognition of the patriotic service and dedicated efforts of our fire and emergency services personnel by lowering American flags on all buildings to half-staff. I respectfully encourage these same organizations, as well as the citizens of Franklin Township, to remember all fire and emergency personnel who have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community, and to pay respect for the survivors of our fallen heroes by participating in bells across America for fallen firefighters. Toll a bell, pause for a moment of silence, and read a special passage to honor the sacrifices of these public servants and their families during your group gathering or meeting. I encourage appropriate services and ceremonies in which all of our citizens may participate to honor fire and emergency services personnel, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to duties have rendered invaluable services to our community and its citizens. In witness, therefore, I have hereto set my name and my hand and cause the seal of Franklin Township to be effects. Presented April 23rd, 2024. John Bruno, Mayor, Timothy Doyle, Mark Fiorello, Jonathan Keene, and Michael Marsh, Committee. Thank you. Bob, you want to come up now? Yeah.
Appreciate that. As some of you know, my dad lost his life in the line of duty at Forest Grove back in 1999, going to a fall, had a heart attack. Every year since, I've been going back as a returning survivor. This year, I believe there's 226 names being added to the memorial, 89 from last year, 137 from years past. The closest one to us is Defford, being honored. He died, I think he was going to a call last year, some had a heart attack. That's a lot of guys being honored. I mean, there's a couple COVID, there's still kids up on COVID, but that's just a lot. You know, and I know they're starting to consider suicide line of duty death now too. Firemen, because that's getting pretty high. So I just want to say thank you and look forward to seeing the flags lowered, and hopefully we can get the fire companies to do it too. Thank you.
Thank you. Carry the motion to open the first public portion for resolutions and ordinances below. Motion, open the first public portion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Harry Kennedy, 1578 Fry's Mill Road. Bob, thank you for coming out. Thank you. It's the days you remember. You remember Lee Gonzalez. You remember Bob Stanmeyer. You remember the terrible things that happened in Franklin Township. And I know you know it. There are a lot of sad things that happen as well as good things as you serve in Township Committee. Tonight I have a strange request. I noticed that you're getting 3 trash trucks from Logan Township. No, I was going to say, I took it upon myself to take a look at what a new trash truck costs, $350,000 to $500,000. Those trash trucks, I'm sure in Logan Township, I know Mayor Miner fairly well. He's used to be an executive at the Delaware River and Bay Authority. I have a feeling, again, I looked online, Jake, and I looked throughout the entire country. You couldn't find a 2010, 2009 trash truck for less than $18,000, $20,000. You guys got 3 trash trucks for $30,000. I don't know whether you're going to use them for parts or you're actually going to put them into service and repaint them and use Logan Township's 15-year-old trash trucks. I know you've had a very, very unfortunate string of circumstances with your trash trucks. It's got to be the unluckiest trash truck town in the history of the world, between fires and people. I don't know how you crash into a trash truck, how you can miss that and hit it. But again, I admire you. I really do, for taking a chance on 3 trash trucks that are at about 1/10 of market value for trash trucks even of that age. And I went on and tried to look up the VIN numbers, and if I had paid $19.95, they would have let me have seen all the things that were on there. But I'm sure you did a thorough examination of the value of those trucks and whether you're going to use them for parts or put them into service or paint them or whatever. If they work, if you get a couple of years out of them, you've made a great investment. But are you planning on any new trash trucks or any capital expenditures in that area? One, right.
We have one on order.
Good.
It's been on order
for a long time. Yeah.
We probably won't see it. for at least another 9 months.
Yeah, that's the supply chain of trash trucks, and the used market is almost beyond comprehension, except especially for side loaders and the utilization of them. So you don't expect that one for a while.
So actually, no, we can't buy a used truck.
No, you can only get them from another municipality. Right.
So what we are buying is not gems.
No kidding.
One will go to work right away.
Good.
And the other two are going to be worked for the one truck.
Well, that's what I figured. You'd try to part them out and use them for other things. But again, I know it's a gamble, but for what trash trucks cost and what the supply chain is and what the delay is. In fact, they go for up to $500,000 now if you buy the new one with all the bells and whistles and the whole bit. So to get 3 trash trucks, even if you're going to combine them into 2 and make them work and replace them for a short period of time, God bless you. I hope that Logan Township's trash trucks serve us well, maybe even better than they serve Logan Township. And I realize it's a gamble, but what are you going to do? You have to pick up the trash, you have to provide the service, and you did it for $30,000. I commend you for trying. Yeah, good.
Right now we're behind. We have 2 trucks that are off the road completely. And we're doing the best we can. We're picking up trash 5 days a week when we should be picking up 4 days a week.
Right. Thank God you have the extra day built in where you have the flexibility to do some other things. But again, commendation and condemnation are very close in words, and I know that sometimes I'm up here not spewing the happiest of things for you, and maybe that'll happen again later on today in the second session. Who knows? We'll be talking about things that might be of interest. But again, thank you to the Public Works Department. Thank you for taking a chance. Thank you for collecting our trash every day. And again, I found it to be a department made up of people that really care about Franklin Township. And even though it's a gamble, God bless you for taking it. Hopefully our trash will get picked up regularly because of the good working and good mechanics you have available to do it. Thank you, Mayor. $30,000 was a good. Yeah,
give us 2 weeks.
Yeah, at least. Good.
Can we go to the next meeting? Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Taking a motion to close the first public portion. Motion to close. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve correspondence and reports.
Motion to approve correspondence and reports.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve minutes from April 9th, 2024.
Motion to approve minutes.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the bill list.
Motion to approve bill list.
Second.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mr. Fiorello?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Yes. We get a motion to approve farm stand for Ferguson.
Motion to approve the farm stand.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 6924, authorizing the purchase of 3 waste collection vehicles for use within the Department of Public Works from the Township of Logan.
Motion R 6924.
Second.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mr. Fiorello?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Pro.
Yes. Resolution 7024, approving emergency temporary budget.
Motion R 7024.
Second.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mr. Fiorello?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Pro.
Yes. Resolution 7124, acknowledging and directing Township Administrator to complete and submit an application for consideration for fiscal year 2024 CDBG Public Facilities and Infrastructure Grant, Gloucester County Hall Avenue Project.
Motion R 7124.
Second.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mr. Fiorello?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Pro.
Yes. Resolution 7224, acknowledging and directing Township Administrator to compete and submit an application for consideration for fiscal year 2024 CDBG Public Facilities and Infrastructure Grant, Gloucester County Nicholas Drive Basin Project.
Motion R 7223.
Second.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mr. Fiorello?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes. Resolution 7324, approving the purchase of a development easement on farm property of Zachary N. Martorana and Kristina N. Martorana.
Motion R 7324.
I'm going to second it, but I'm going to abstain because I used to farm that.
Mr. Doyle abstaining. Mr. Fiorello?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes. Resolution 7424, authorizing payment to Frazier Engineering for survey services for the farmland preservation project in a total amount of $3,964.50.
Motion R 7424.
Second, I'm also going to abstain from that for the same reason.
Mr. Doyle abstaining. Mr. Fiorello?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes. Can I get a motion to open the second public portion for any comments?
Motion to open the second public portion.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Good evening, Leah Vassallo, 560 Delsey Drive. I was here at the last meeting and I had some questions, Mr. Keene, from the report that you had given at the end of the previous meeting. And you weren't here to answer them. I went over some of them with the committee members who were here, but I wanted to go back around to that since you are here now and just basically respond to that. I was curious as to why you picked a 4-year look back. You said 2019,
Yes.
and 2024 hasn't happened yet, so you have to be looking at numbers from 2023, right?
20, 21, 22, and 23. Yes.
So you actually would be starting at the end of 2018 is where you were looking at it. Okay. So you'd mentioned a few things, and to touch back at one of the key ones was about the bond rating.
Yes.
And you'd mentioned for that one, you went back to 2017 and said in 2017, the bond rating was an A+, and then now it's an AA-, I believe you said. Right. And why'd you go back to 2017 for that one?
So that was a misunderstanding between myself and the administration. So the administration provided me that accurately. I misinterpreted that, but you are correct. So that did happen 2 months later. That happened in 2017, and that didn't happen in this 5-year period.
Okay. And because it seemed to me as if, it was kind of a look back to say, well, let's look at things now versus how things were run previously. So what I wanted to basically address is when there is a rating assessment, what is the primary item that a rating company would look at in your financial records?
That's going to depend on the financial company, but I would say assets.
Okay, I would make the argument that it's roughly the equivalent of equity in the private sector. If you're looking at the current fund and you have the assets and then the liabilities and then what you have remaining or what would be normally the equity, in this case is a combination of the fund balance and the reserve for receivables. So talking about tax rates since that time period, and you said, I believe it was approximately a 20% inflation over that time period?
Yeah, over that 5-year period.
Correct. But I wanted to point out that during that same 5-year period, regardless of what happened with the actual tax rate, the regular, and this isn't the whole 5-year period, this is actually going from basically January 1st, 2019 to January 1st, 2023, because we don't have the audit from 2023 yet.
Yeah.
So it's looking at those 4 years. Even if the inflation was 20%, the regular fund assets only increased by 6% during that time period, whereas the regular fund liabilities increased by 77.8%. And the critical part, the equity, the value of the township, which is the fund balance and the reserve for receivables, actually decreased by 12.7% during that same time frame. So even though you had inflation of almost 20%, you actually had a decrease in value, if you will, at the township by almost 13%. So tax rates can be manipulated very easily, and they oftentimes are. I've sat up on Township Committee as both a Democrat and Republicans. I've seen both parties engage in wanting to keep, increases down in certain key years and things like that. But when you keep your increase down and it's at the expense of the value of the township, you're basically selling off assets to do that. That's a limited, it's a short, yes, and it's going to catch up with you twice as much when you run out of those things to sell. And part of what we try to do when things were not high inflation, when the time I sat in office, it was generally about 2% per year, is we tried to do things that would leave a buffer for when bad times came, including going from an accelerated tax sale back to a standard tax sale, which creates revenue for the township because it's one of the only ways the township can actually generate an income, which is through the up to 18% interest and things like that. So my concern is don't keep selling off township assets and raising taxes, because you're not keeping taxes low, but you're also not going to be able to sustain that for more than a few years. And then there's going to be a massive tax increase. So I would encourage you to look past the simple numbers of what was the tax rate for that particular year and look at the actual fundamentals behind it to see whether things have actually improved or whether they have not. And I think you'll agree that they have not during that time period. Thank you.
Always be aware of the second time. Harry Kennedy, 1578 Fry's Mill Road. I'm going to ask the Township Committee to investigate some things. And the thing I'm going to ask you to investigate is something that I found to be true over the years. In the demographics of politics nowadays, it's not elections that destroy people, because elections are pretty well decided in Franklin Township just by the demographics. All right, it's a Republican town. It gave a 3,000 vote plurality to President Trump in the last election, to former President Trump. Less than 10% of people split their vote anymore. It used to be 50%. Less than 10% split their vote. It's court cases that come and bite us. And court cases bite us real bad. One that bit us real bad was the one, Kitty College. I think we all remember that. That caused a seismic shift in the politics of Franklin Township. Another one was the Torres case. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Torres case, but that was the one that was affordable housing. It was the one with the testimony as to racial slurs that were used and other things that were done to prevent people from moving into Franklin Township. There's a third case. I have a feeling there might be a fourth case in the future, but there's a third case right now and probably a fourth case in the future. The third case is the one that involves Delsey Solar. And Delsey Solar, I don't know whether you're aware or not, the judge threw out two of your ordinances regarding solar. The judge held in favor in a preliminary way and threw out two of your ordinances regarding what although most of you weren't here for it, what was done in terms of the solar ordinances. But the other thing that I thought was fascinating, and again, it takes some time and effort, is that you have to take a look at the judge's decision and the filing of the attorney that was filing the suit for Delsey Solar LLC. What that attorney did was point out deficiencies that were so egregious and terrible that they can't be missed by even a layman. I'm not a lawyer. I have obviously a few lawyers in the family, but I went through that decision and read it. And I read what was said, and I read what was done, and I read what was not done. And I also opened what was paid in terms of legal fees to defend that property from solar development. I also looked at the lawyers filing for reimbursement for the legal fees for Delsey Solar LLC. When you read that, again, no condemnation, because I was told by the previous zoning officer of Franklin Township who the primary architect of that solar ordinance was and for what reason and how much time it took and who did it and why it was done. But when you look at how those were put together and what the cost was in terms of money and what the cost was in terms of legal fees and what the cost will be when somebody reads those decisions in terms of embarrassment for the foundation of law that was not followed by the people that were charged with following the law. All right? It's embarrassing. And I would ask this of the Township Committee. I know that the Planning Board agreed to a preliminary agreement to allow the solar field to go on. Is the appeal still being pursued by who? Is it by the zoning board? By what right do they have to do it? Did anybody on Township Committee approve it? Is that appeal still ongoing? Does anybody know?
That appeal still ongoing?
Yes. Yeah, the zoning board is a party to the action, so the decision would have to be made there.
Does the zoning board have the right to hire outside attorney to pursue a legal case?
The zoning board is a separate legal entity in that regard.
Did they ever do that in an open public session to the best of your knowledge? You don't? I mean, you're not aware.
I haven't.
All right. So there is ongoing litigation. There is the threat of the legal fees being reimbursed to the lawyer suing us, and the zoning board never in a public session approved that to happen. It's costing us legal fees, it's costing us appeal fees, and it's costing us embarrassment. I'd suggest that you guys take the time to read very carefully the judge's decision and the lawyer's brief. I think it will be eye-opening as to the competence of what's happened in Franklin Township. Thank you.
Dave Marshall, 67 New Road, Malaga. Along to follow through that, not that I knew what Harry was going to be talking about, but about reputation and black eyes against the township, I have a couple questions. When that solar ordinance was voted on, just recently, of course, I just have a question for you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe you can clarify. I know.
This is for your comments. This is not a question and answer.
Okay, well then you can. Okay, well you don't have to answer, and we'll just leave it at that then. So, at least from what I understand, you had worked for the electric company, and of course, which that means you probably have some kind of ties to it, either through some kind of stock dividends or retirement.
The big field down the street. I mean, I don't know what to do with all this money anymore. I'll tell you what, Rowan's money, this money, shit. You come up and dig a hole in my basement so I can put more in there.
Well, the actual
What's having work with the electric company have to do with that?
because you voted yes on a project that the electric company is doing.
It's not going to benefit from that one way, shape, or form. Of course, they got to buy the power.
We can't, Mayor, we can't answer questions regarding pending litigation as it's still ongoing.
Well, that's what he said. He wasn't going to answer me, so I was just talking. But he decided to anyway. So my question, which you're not going to answer, so I'll make a statement. It just looks like a conflict of interest. And maybe it's not, and that's why I was asking for some clarification. Just asking. Well, I understand that. But retirements do happen, and sometimes payments do happen through that retirement. So that's why I was asking.
I got a lump sum.
Good. Very good. The other question I have is in about election integrity. As you probably have known, because there's been some emails that have gone in your direction in reference to this, the ballot petitions that were signed, there were some that were signed, of course, at the community center, which shouldn't have occurred. There was, well, all right, that's, again, I thought you weren't answering me, but thank you. And then there was also multiple employees that signed. Maybe they did it on their own time, maybe they didn't, but I'm just asking. There was also, no, they're allowed to vote however they want. They just legally are not allowed to do it during work hours. That's the way it works. That's in our bylaws and in the state ethics law. So that's why I'm asking, because I just want your clarification on that. There's also a spot where the zoning board, there's 5 members right in a row that signed it. Sure looks like a quorum. Maybe it didn't happen at the meeting, but it sure looked like it did. And from what I've heard, it did. And maybe it was planning board. At the moment, if you're going to clarify, please. I don't know which board it was that did it as a quorum, but regardless, it happened. All right, okay. That's why I'm bringing it up, and just I felt maybe you could enlighten me. The county, or our township clerk, of course, signed for you, which is within her rights to do so. But then she also notarized it, which, from what I've understood, is also a conflict. And I'm just asking: am I wrong there? I mean, it's notarizing isn't a problem and signing isn't a problem, but you can't do both together from what I've understood legally. And from what I can glean, this has happened in the last 3 elections. So that's why I'm asking. Because it's just accountability. It's black eye. We don't need it. The last thing the Republican Party needs is another ethics violation. And if you're not sure of the ethics side, you can always talk to our chaplain. I'm sure he can enlighten you. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to close the second on the floor? Motion. Second. I'm sorry. All in favor? Aye. Committee reports, Mike?
This weekend, the golf tournament for Franklin, for community, it's the Alabama tournament. Whatever we can make, if you can't make it, at least purchase a dinner ticket, donate something. It'll be a great day for a great cause.
The library, their Academy streaming service launched April 1st, which is an app you can download and get some free video streams that you can do through it. There will be a training on it May 21st at the library at 2 p.m. And they just started a puzzle swap in the library, which you don't need a library card.
John? Yes, Mr. Mayor, just to elaborate a little bit on the report that I gave, which has come into question. So first, thanks for your comments. I think they're very well thought out, and I will look into what you have stated, Mrs. Vasala, so I appreciate that. But as far as the reasoning for a 5-year period, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify here, I think a lot of government entities have a 5-year budget, so looking back 5 years is something that's beneficial for us. I know that we don't do that here, but I think it is a practice in other areas. And also 2019 was the last full year that's pre-pandemic, so I wanted to kind of have a look back of how we've been navigating through this new post-pandemic economy. So that's the purpose of why I chose that report, and I think that's important for us to have reporting periods or reports to have comparisons to in the future for us to make decisions that are, as educated as possible, but be transparent with that. I know that we're looking at that on our end, but I think it's nice to report that to the public. So just want to add that clarification. Thank you.
Cool. Just public works guys are making do what they got. Give them credit. Not many municipalities are probably rebuilding used trash trucks, but it's what's necessary. I'm sure we'll get some complaints first time one breaks, but these guys are getting it done. They care. It would be real easy to sit back and just say we wait for a new one. So good job. I want to thank John for doing reports. Since I've been here, no one's ever done a report like that. We can't let everybody know. So thank you.
I just want to thank the Public Works. I mean, this is just coming up with an idea, like finding this resource to purchase these trucks. Hopefully we get more than a month out of them. Sure have a lot of parts. But honestly, like Brian said, this takes trash to a 5-day week. That cuts down on some of the other things that we need to get done. And that kind of hurts a township of this size. There's a lot of grass to mow, a lot of work to be done. There's a ton of potholes that need to be filled. And if you're seeing them, I believe you can report them to Public Works to get them filled. Give them a call to find a pothole. Again, I want to thank Public Works for going out of their way and making this deal with Logan, and hopefully it's good for both townships. With that said, what day is that? May 11th. We'll have the shredding event up here from 9 to 12, not 8:40, because the guy don't get here till 9. The shredding guy with the truck, so we have nowhere to put the stuff until he's here. But 9 to 12, May 11th. Okay, if you have anything that needs to be shredded, please bring it out. All right, with that said, I get a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye.